doesn't look far off.
Welcome to the build I made. Literally a year ago. This is the Techno build I was using in the end when I started Techno. And of course I wanted to be a super tank support. So I remember this is the build I was running pretty much. I think I got it pretty much identical for the most part. There's probably one or two mods that are different that I forgot about, but for the most part, I do remember this is virtually identical. And I remember at the very end I was using both the Toxic and Freeze bonuses and putting Toxic on my secondary to activate it. So as you'll see while I'm talking during this video, this dude's OP. I'm playing on tier 15, and I'm not using a single tier 3 mod on my guns, on my armor, no legendaries whatsoever. This is the dude I made pretty much during the campaign and when I was farming expeditions up to tier 15 on my Techno. And I do enough damage to, I think I finished this in just over 15 minutes, but when you factor in the time I just did to show you my build, and also as you see, one of these dudes freaking resurrects himself, which is annoying and doesn't always happen, but if that didn't happen, I'm pretty sure I would have done this easily in maybe 14 and a half minutes. And before New Horizons updates, when you had rank, you had to beat these expeditions in certain time limits. So back then, in order to get gold rank on this expedition, you had to do it in 13 minutes and 16 seconds. Which this build, if you did it on tier 14, you had to do that in order to get to the last tier 15 rank. So you had to get that time on tier 14. So this build, I think, did just enough damage to get gold rank on tier 14s, if not on this one, then some of the expeditions. So I was able to solo run all the way to tier 15, essentially. And that was back when you still had to get timers. Now you don't even need to do the timer, which is why these tank builds are even better now, since now you just need to be tanky to unlock everything, essentially. But as you see, I stick Toxic on my secondary for two reasons: to get that bonus damage on Toxic from Radical Therapy, combined with my freeze bonus damage. But also, and mainly, I only really use it on the elites because they resist freeze the most. But Toxic always inflicts it on them, and as you see, I get a boosted vulnerability on them from Toxic too. So it's the easiest way to keep that vulnerable boost on them constantly, even if they're not frozen. That's really why I do it. But getting the combination of freeze and Toxic is sometimes nice still. And I still use my turret, as you see. My turret is mainly just to heal me further, but really this build is about the status power cold snap and Toxic and freeze combo. This is the build that eventually becomes my Toxic freeze blighted round using dude you see in my other videos. And then my triple turret dude is similar, but I mean honestly this build kind of splits into both of them when I unlock all the tier 3 mods and realize it's better to just have two different builds with them. One for all turrets and one for all cold snap and Toxic, basically. What else can I say? Like I said, just pause the video in the beginning to see all the mods that I'm using. You see I use the same mods on my pistol, and that's because obviously I don't have infinite ammo on this dude. So if I ever do run out of my LMG, and I don't have time or I don't have the means to go grab more ammo at an ammo box, then having my infinite sidearm basically do the exact same thing is still nice. And I pretty much never run out of ammo for my secondary since I don't really use it for damaging much. It's just really to re-inflict, to just keep the death chains active while I also stick Toxic on them. Death chains, by the way, if you don't know, heals you based off your weapon leech stats. It's another reason I use that on this dude. And as you see, I stick the armor and resistance mod from Fixing Wave, and I combine the one mod you might have been like, what? Why does he do that? I have the faster melee mod. That's because, again, I'm not using any tier 3 mods, so I have to pick what's best for tier 1 and tier 2s. And honestly, on this build, there's really like only 7 or 8 like really good tier 1 and tier 2 mods. And the other 2 or 3 are kind of just at your own discretion because there's not a lot of good ones anymore. I realized the melee cooldown is nice because on this build I use the same dude where every time I use melee it makes me take 40% less damage, and at that point I really pretty much am invincible if I wasn't already. Like, I can stand in the middle of beam traps if I keep shooting someone to activate Weapon Leech and meleeing to get that bonus resistance and still be fine. And that basically allows me to keep that 40% on me indefinitely on this dude, because the cooldown on melee when you max it out is like just over 3 seconds, and the bonus 40% less damage in my skill tree from it lasts 3 seconds. So getting that extra melee cooldown makes it only I'm losing words. Take 2 seconds is what I'm trying to say. Basically, that node basically lets me keep that melee protection on me if I need it. That is, you see, I don't really need it most of the time, and I don't even use it on this in this expedition much. But if I do, it's nice to have. I mean, I just used it there also because melee, Techno has the best melee anyway, since it freezes them too. So honestly, getting a melee buff on a Techno before you have any tier 3 mods is still nice too, because you can't really go wrong since you have like the best melee in the game, honestly. Techno definitely gets the best melee for what he does than the other 3 classes. That's pretty much it. As you see, I just use my toxic dude on the bosses and just alternate between my guns. This dude does, of course, less damage than my other 2 Technos, and honestly, the biggest reason is just because he has no good AoE. Like, all my damage right now, I don't really have tier 3 mods you kind of need on the Techno to do a lot of the area effect damage to really clear, ads really well. Like, my Blighted round dude, he'd clear that group of ads in a split second on solo from how much AoE damage he does with his Damascus offering. On this dude, I have no AoE, but it's fine, because, I do a lot of good focus damage still with all my status power bonuses, and I freeze everything. It's a great build.